are listening to 22 West Radio. Thank you for tuning in.
We are 22S Radio. 22S Radio is 22smedia.com and 88.1 FM KKJZ HD3 Long Beach, Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and if this is your very first time listening to the show, this is a talk show, and it's pretty much like a biography show. I showcase someone different every week, and I get them to share their story. So, I like to start off from the beginning. Like, what was life growing up? Did you grow up with siblings?
Yeah, I'm actually one of six. So I have an older sister, an older brother. I'm kind of in the middle, and then I have a younger sister and two younger brothers. Well, my older siblings are half siblings, but we pretty much kind of considered each other as full blood. We were all very close.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to start off from each school system. Elementary, what was that like?
Well, actually, throughout elementary all the way up until junior high, I actually moved all over. I don't think I was in the same school district or even in the same city more than a year and a half to 2 years at a time. My dad was a superintendent, and so every 2 years he would have to change to a whole other school district. But once I hit 6th grade in junior high, my dad had left education and went into stocks and insurance, and then that's kind of where I settled down in a town called Katy, Texas. So yeah, I'm from Texas, if you can't tell by the little Texas twang that I have already, but yeah.
Cool. So around that time in middle school and elementary, did you have particular interests? Like, were you like in music, or what kind of hobbies did you have at the time?
I always enjoyed the art classes. Not so much music. I can't sing. I try. I can sing comedically. If you want me to sing badly for a joke, I can do that. But yeah, I was always interested in the art classes, and going back to my dad being a superintendent, he would actually go to the high school plays, and the high schools competed against each other for the plays, and he would always pull me out of school to actually go with him and see the plays. And thankfully my school district was really good, and so I was always seeing productions at state and regional and national level, starting when I was in 3rd grade. And I think that's probably the spark of not only comedy, but performing and acting just in general, was at that young age going to go see plays with my dad.
Cool. And I feel like, I don't know, with moving a lot, was it hard to make friends, knowing that I'm not going to be here that long, so I don't know, I figured what's the point, or how did that go about at that time?
It was extremely hard, especially at that young, but you kind of say that everything happens for a reason, right? And so I guess in a way, starting over in a new city every 1 to 2 years kind of prepped me for a city like LA, where every production, every gig that you get, you have to completely start over and make a new friend. And so, yes, it was hard on the brain, but I never really considered it bad, per se, but rather as a chance to, I just got better at making friends, and being a good person, I guess you could say. And some of the people that I've moved, I kept in contact with, but, yeah.
So once you finally settled in, well, even before that, how... at what age were you aware of what your dad did, and was he superintendent of your school district, or so how did that feel knowing he's the main guy?
Yeah, it was funny. It was, weirdly enough, it was always the teachers that brought it to my attention, because they were very much of oh, that's the superintendent's son, don't make him mad or he'll get you fired kind of energy. So all the teachers liked me. I don't know if they actually liked me or if they were just trying to be on my good side because my dad was the boss man. Uh, yeah, it was always the teachers that brought it to my attention. I mean, none of the kids did because I don't think the kids knew what a superintendent was. In their eyes, they thought, oh, teacher's the boss, and the boss for the teacher is maybe the principal. Uh, so yeah, I guess you can kind of say in this weird way without knowing it, I kind of walked the halls as a third grader with power, and very much of like, do you know who my daddy is, kind of stuff. Uh, yeah, I guess you could say that. And but it was a two-edged sword because anytime that I acted up in class or got in trouble, every teacher knew my dad directly and didn't even need to look up a phone number or anything because the superintendent's on speed dial on every phone system anywhere you go. Uh, so in that also same sense, I had to be a good kid because I couldn't hide anything.
So, what caused the change of career for him?
There was a lot of politics. My dad, very much like me, is I think is where I get it from, is a very stubborn guy. And so anytime he has a belief or puts a system in place, he tends to stick by it no matter what people think or if people are unhappy with it. Uh, and my dad, he was superintendent of some pretty rough school districts, including some that had a lot of gang violence and drug issues. And so when he made people mad in that kind of areas, I mean, I remember had to have been third or fourth grade. It was fourth grade. We woke up in the middle of the night to find a dead coyote in our front yawn, with people in trucks throwing rocks at our windows, telling us to get out of town. Uh, so yeah, but and all with that being said, my dad still stood firm in what he believed in, and like him or not, you got to respect that. And that's one reason why I look up to him so much.
And what was it like for you? Like once, because you were at what grade did he stop being a superintendent? In like
Sixth grade.
Sixth grade.
Sixth grade.
What was it like for you guys to see like your dad like switch to a whole new career?
Well, it was actually relieving for everybody because while he was a superintendent, you could tell of all the stress that he was put through and the kind of people that he had to deal with. And like I said, he left because of politics, and it just seemed like nobody was necessarily happy, especially my dad. And it was just this overbearing stress that he always had with him. But in sixth grade, when he finally decided to switch into stocks, into insurance, and things like that, financial planning, he, in a weird way, it seemed like then he was following his dream. It was at that point where, at the age of, 45, that's when he kind of woke up and realized that he doesn't have to live life necessarily for the money's sake. He can do what he wants to do. And not only did it relieve stress off my dad, but as a family dynamic altogether, because we can just tell that he was happier, which was a great thing. And again, another reason why looking up to my dad, to do what you want to do the first time. Yeah, don't wait.
Did you ever have to deal with like bullies or anything like that?
Nothing serious bully. I mean, of course, in fourth grade, I had a girl bully that bullied the hell out of me because, she liked me. But no, not necessarily bullies. I have dealt with bullies on the opposite side. I've stood up for people. Because throughout high school, not only was I a theater kid, doing improv and the school plays and things like that, but I also played football. And so in this weird way, I was living a real life high school musical without the singing because I couldn't sing, remember? And so not necessarily bullies per se, but I kind of knew everybody on all ends. I knew the football jocks. I knew the people that would be bullies, and I also knew the theater nerds. Um, and to any theater nerds out there, go theater nerds.
This is very interesting because usually I'll ask like guests too, like in high school, like when you see in the movies and in the TVs, you see like the nerds on one table during lunch and the jocks on the other. And I asked them where did they identify and where did they typically sit with. But like you were like in both arts and sports at the same time. So how do you time management and what did you do? Where'd you hang out?
Oh man, it was really cut 50-50 in almost every aspect. For the most part, I had to eat lunch with the football players because the football players in Texas football is a big thing, and so like a lot of the football players would have a practice in the middle of the day, like during their athletic period, and lunch was right after that. And during your lunch period, you have to come back and watch film. You don't have to, but it's a like, oh, if you don't, then you might as well be off the team. And so lunch, I guess you can say that, but a lot of after-school stuff, when I wasn't in football practice, I would always stay after and help out with the plays. If I wasn't casted, I'd like help build sets. Then late night activities, I spent more time with the theater kids because the theater kids are a little bit more fun. Theater kids are a little bit more party animals, like to get into some trouble. But I had to be careful because if you get trouble and you're caught in the football team, it's no good. So yeah, I guess that's kind of how you say it. I spent a lot of time with the football players in school and more of the drama people outside of school. Yeah.
Now that's pretty cool. Now, how do you time manage when like all of a sudden like games were already gonna be coming up and like a play was coming up and stuff like that?
Man, really to look back, I don't know how I did it. I rolled with the punches. I just did it. The worst case scenario for this type of situation was I was cast in a play, and the play was being put on for 2 weekends. So we had like 6 performances, and we got through the first weekend, and we had a Friday night play, and I had a Thursday night game, and sure enough, Thursday night in the game, I broke my leg. Like, I don't mean fractured, I mean had to reset it, almost needed surgery, full cast, put in a wheelchair, and I had to come to school the next day, rolling into theater class, being like, hey director, we got a problem. And sure enough, my theater director, my theater teacher, pulled me out of all my other classes, and we spent the entire day re-blocking all the scenes with me in a wheelchair. But the type of show that it could have worked because it was a very comedic, sketch-like show. It wasn't like we were doing Death of a Salesman or Gone with the Wind or something where it just would not have made sense. And so, yeah, that's my most extreme is that, you know, in theater they say break a leg, and I literally did for one of the shows. But it was great. It was an awesome time. And believe it or not, that was the show where my coaches started to come watch me. And that was the show where all the coaches kind of let up on me. Because they thought I was doing theater just to get out of football practice. Because I'd leave football practice midway through to go to rehearsal. But once they came and saw that play, that's when they kind of realized that, oh, you know, I like it and I'm doing it for real. And that's when I finally had the football support for my creative mind.
Ooh. We'll be right back after our first commercial break.
Did you know that more than 20% of students on Cal State campuses experience food insecurity
It goes
while
by
in
so
college?
quick.
Yeah.
Cal State Long Beach is doing something to help that with the
I
Beach
did
Pantry,
two
which
commercial
is
breaks.
located on the
Yeah.
3rd floor of the Student Union in room 302 and is open Monday through
30
Friday,
seconds,
10 a.m. to
something
2
like that
p.m. and
sometimes.
again from 5 p.m. to
It's a
7
really
p.m.
cool setup.
Stop by for some food, snacks, and school
invested in my
supplies.
own little camcorders, and then I'll use the webcam to like have this little website
Yeah.
to like live broadcast.
Do you want an
Take in
opportunity to win a free
Yeah.
Nintendo Switch? What about a Bluetooth speaker or an Echo Dot?
I learned early on
Well, here
if
it is.
I had
Just
a show
pick up a
that
free ticket
had
from the
no
22S
music
Media
playing,
booth at the
I could just
Multicultural
own it
Center
and
on
repost
Tuesday,
it on
September
video
24th.
on like
Yeah.
YouTube,
Between
and like
10:30
more
a.m.
people can
and
watch
1
it if they
p.m.
missed it.
Oh,
Then
that's
visit the
awesome.
22S
Yeah,
Media
so
office
I was like, oh
located
yeah,
at
like
USG
you don't have to do
112
about
to drop
copyright
the
if you
ticket off
just
in the
record
district.
all talk.
Winners
It
will
was
be
perfect.
announced
Yeah.
Thursday, September 26th at the
I
22S
used
Media
to be all
Info
super
Session
shy and like it
between 4
took me a
and
while
6
to go in
p.m.
and get into it
You
and all
must
that.
be present at the info session to win.
My old
See you
station
there.
at community college only had CD players.
Oh,
And so I
man.
just played something off of the CD.
What happened to bless
So
the
it
Lord?
took a
And
while.
why
Plus,
can't I
it was
listen
different
to
because it was
beach
smaller.
song?
There was
Well,
one window, but it was tinted.
we switched
So nobody could
hours.
see
You
inside
can
what I
now
was
listen
doing,
to
so I
Bless
felt
the Lord at 2
like
p.m.
it was good
You can
when I
listen to
first
Beach Center
started because it was
Reports
like
gospel
I didn't feel the
music
pressure.
at 1 p.m.
Nobody
so
was
after you
watching
listen to some boring reports, come listen to Bless the Lord here on 22 West Radio
We'll be right
and
back after this
22westmedia.com.
Cool.
Have some fun. Adios every Wednesday. Woo!
Hi, this is Cassius. And this is Hui. We're the hosts of Listomania, and you're listening to 22S Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and we are live here, broadcasting from California State University, Long Beach. And I'm back here with my guest. So, in high school, most would say that the final 2 years are the most stressful, but eventually, the time comes where a lot of these senior activities are happening, like prom and all that stuff. Did you get to partake in all those senior activities? How did it go?
Oh yes, very much so. I went to prom twice. I had an upperclassman who was in theater my junior year, and she couldn't find a date, and so she asked me to prom, which was a lot of fun. So I went and did prom and got drunk and did all the senior prom things that you do as a junior. And so going into my own senior prom, I felt like an expert by that point. And then my senior prom, I actually think, yeah, that's right. I went alone that year because relationship issues and blah, 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 blah. And of course, lost the girl like weeks before prom. And no, it didn't matter how popular I was or anything. Everybody already had a date and everyone was already taken. And so, but that didn't stop me. I then became kind of like the bachelor for the night. And instead of dancing with one person, I got to dance with everybody, which was a lot of fun. And then, of course, we got drunk and did all those fun things afterwards, too. And then, of course, the biggest thing I say my senior year was the football stuff. Because Texas football is huge. And especially with our school, we were at the time 8-time state champions. The whole town is surrounded in the football culture, very Friday Night Lights kind of town. And we, unfortunately, were one of the classes that didn't go all the way, which was a bummer. But in this weird sense, I remember getting on the bus from our last game that we lost, and we were all sad and coming back on the bus. But as soon as we hit the locker room, we went from crying and being upset to cheering because we were finally free. We didn't have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to lift weights and run miles and do all this crazy, agonizing workout stuff. I liked high school a lot. I know these days you don't hear that a lot. A lot of people say, "Oh, high school sucked," But no, I enjoyed high school. I had a lot of good friends and I have a lot of good memories, especially in those last 2 years.
The moment comes, and with most seniors, where all of a sudden it's the whole, what do I do next? What school do I want to go to? What exactly do I want to study? Did you know right away, or did it take some time? What happened?
I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know if I was allowed, if that makes sense. Freshman, sophomore year, I explored your typical engineering, lawyer, doctor, all the things that you are supposed to do, right? But none of those things called out to me. None of those, I took trial classes for those types of majors, and I was bored out of my mind, and I remember thinking that if I have to do this for the rest of my life, I'm going to blow my head off. And theater and acting, performing was the only thing that I would, every time that I was done, I would say to myself, I could do this for the rest of my life. And so why not? And I was good. I was the lead in all my high school productions. I competed at national levels with solo monologues and things like that. Did a lot of improv. I even got a few acting gigs in Texas, nothing big. And I had some upperclassmen that I considered brothers to this day that were the ones that even told me that majoring in acting was a thing. And so once I found that out, I was like, oh shoot, well why not? Of course my parents wanted me to get a degree, and in some aspects that they are right. But, now going to school for acting, for film and television, I wake up every day excited and eager to learn and ready to learn, because I know every class that I'm in and every class that I'm working towards is for something that I want to do. And I think that's the most important thing to take into account while trying to make this decision, because it's a big decision. It's an expensive decision. So do the thing that's going to make you happy.
So, around this time, because you mentioned you had siblings older also than you.
Mm-hmm.
Were some of them they had already went through this path and stuff? Like, did you go to them for advice too during that moment?
Not too much. My older sister actually had to drop out of college because she had her first kid. But she's married and very happy, and now have 3 more kids. And my older brother, he is a aerospace engineer and actually already has a job working for NASA. I'm not exactly sure what he does, but it's NASA, so who cares? I didn't come to them a lot too much for help because I looked a lot closer. My fellow peers, my fellow friends, because then also another thing was, for whatever reason, in high school, which, I'm sure this is normal for everyone, I felt a lot closer to my friends at school, and even to some of my teachers than I did with my siblings and parents at home, because of that whole, oh, my parents don't know me, I'm an artist, and they don't get me, screw my parents, kind of thing. But now, after graduating high school and being in college, and now that my parents don't have any control over me, it's now that we're close, and now we're good friends with each other and all that stuff. But, they were a parent, and they got to be a parent before your friend, so I understand.
So during college, I would say the most stressful time is the Homer Simpson pull hair moments, midterms and finals. How did you deal with them? How did you time manage? Were you part of clubs and stuff?
Yeah. And so I'm still going to college right now. I'm in my junior year right now. And thankfully, because of my degree for acting for film and television, and for the type of program that my school has, a lot of my finals and midterms are a lot less essays and tests, but a lot more performance-based. And so, yes, it's stressful because instead of writing essays, I'm having to memorize 10 different scenes and trying to get together with 8 different people because they're my acting partner and things like that. But also in this weird way, it's fun, it's acting. As far as time management, no, I was not the best. I'm very much a procrastinator, and thank the Lord for creating Red Bull, because Red Bull has saved me a lot. don't ever recommend it. And will I ever learn that lesson for myself? Probably not. Midterms are coming up for myself right now. Probably do the same thing, save everything till the night before, and pull an all-nighter with 8 cans of Red Bull. So, I don't know. Now I'm saying it here on this radio station. Maybe I should take my own advice and start working on them now. But yeah, for stuff like that, you just have to buckle down and get through it and just know that it's not going to last. It's going to be over. It's going to be done. And you're going to move on to the next thing.
Books and stuff can be equipment. Can be expensive.
Yeah.
You know, like you mentioned, college can be expensive and stuff. Sometimes people have to balance work at the same time. I like to do this thing called the timeline, and it's pretty much all the jobs that you held leading up to where you are today, and like chronological.
With comedic and acting jobs, or
In general?
just in general?
To where you are today.
Oh man. Well, my first job ever was I was a fireworks salesman for a bit, and that was a lot of fun in a seasonal job. After that, I worked at a Chinese food restaurant. Strangely enough, there was not anyone of Asian ethnicity running the place, owning the place, managing the place. It was not very good food, if you can imagine. I worked there for a bit, and while I was working there, I had picked up a second job working with Cutco knives, which are like kitchen knives, going door to door selling kitchen knives. I was way too good at that job. I was making upward of $3,000 a month selling kitchen knives. And because I was making that much money, I left the Chinese food restaurant and did that only for the summer until I moved out to Los Angeles. And right before I moved out to Los Angeles, the regional director actually came up to me and offered me to run my own office. And though it was very tempting, and though I would have been making a lot of money, I knew I didn't want to be known as the knife guy for the rest of my life. But of course now, every time I think about, you know, me being broke and all this debt that I'm in, I always think back and like, man, I could have just sold kitchen knives. And then I moved out here to Los Angeles, and I did some, then I started getting paid for some acting work, doing short films here and there, some paid, some not. And then in my free time, I went to go do stand-up comedy and open mics. They were just kind of the things that I did for fun when I wasn't doing anything else. I'm going to tie this back in later. Then after that, I worked for Mendocino Farms, which I know, looking at me, you would not think I would work for a place like Mendocino Farms. They're selling tofu sandwiches and soup and grass-fed beef and all that. I learned a lot from that job. But I couldn't stand working there because, you know, the place is great. That as an employer, they treated me fantastically, but it was harder to act being the good customer service guy all the time than it was actually doing my regular performing. So I left there, but I also left there because around the time that I left, I had got involved with the Murder Mystery Company, doing comedic improv murder mystery shows. And that started paying quite a bit, and I was getting a lot. And that's something that I still do to this day. And then going back to stand-up comedy, I was doing open mics, and then one of my professors referred me to a man named Dante Rossellini, and he is a stand-up comedy manager and comedy show producer. So I got in contact with him and had a 101 private class session, and he taught me everything I know about stand-up comedy. 2 weeks into his class, he was putting on a comedy contest, and I asked him, said, well, those are any requirements to sign up and join? He's like, no, but I mean, I wouldn't get ahead of yourself. You've only been doing this for 2 weeks, you know, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. You can sign up. So I signed up, competed. In my first go around, made it all the way to the finals, performed at the Ice House Comedy Club in Pasadena. And when that was all said and done, he came to me and was like, "Oh my gosh, kid, you're great. You know, if you're this funny now at the age of 19, you're going to go far. You're going to do this, this, this. And I want to sign with you." So there's my Hollywood break story. And he's my stand-up comedy manager to this day. And I do a lot of shows for him over at Sal's Comedy Hole. I'm starting to get paid for my stand-up comedy. Now even to the point where I'm now starting to do shows back in Texas. I just did my first Texas show about 2 weeks ago. And so all the friends and family from back home got to come see. And I got paid for that show as well. So starting to climb up the ladder a little bit. It feels great.
Ooh. We'll be back after our second commercial break.
Love before learning, learn for life. Arts and services for disabled
It goes by so
Incorporated
fast.
provides programs and services including enrolled day and outreach
had
programs,
one guest
gallery shows,
at my
exhibitions,
community
and
college.
community partnerships.
She's like, "Sure, I'll be on your show."
We really focus
I'm like,
on
okay,
abilities
we're
versus
live. We're there.
disabilities,
She
allowing
completely
people
forgot I was
to
live.
learn to express themselves
During
through
the time where I played the
evidence-based
first commercial,
music
she's
and
like,
art therapy.
"Wait, are we
And one of
live?"
our biggest goals here is
I'm
to
thinking in my head,
create
it's a radio
inclusion
station. Yes!
creative
Yes!
arts and really bring
She's
our
like,
population
I forgot my
into
book.
the community
Like, I'll be
and
back.
allow
She never
them
came
to
back.
be integrated into society.
Oh.
To donate or for more information
Man,
about
that's
arts
rough.
and services
What did you
for
do? Did
disabled,
you have to be like,
I just
www.artsandservices.org.
I was like, oh, I just grabbed the CDs and started using the CD players we had. I had no way to continue the interview.
Oh,
She got stage fright, even though it was a tinted window.
man. Yeah.
Find joy in the simplicity of the moment, right here, right now. Tune into a mindful moment on 22 West Radio, Wednesdays at 8 p.m., where we bring awareness to the present.
I used to be so chicken and like talking, and I pushed myself after like playing music from the CDs. I started to talk a little more, and so eventually I heard about somebody who did a show that was about the clubs, and so I started interviewing clubs.
And
Just
if
like
you're
he
listening
did
on your
years
desktop
before me,
or through
and
our
eventually I moved on
website,
to like
you may want to take us
professors,
along for
until
the ride
eventually I
anywhere
reached out
you
to
go.
outside of
It's
school
so
and stuff
simple
like
to
that.
do. All you
That's
have to
awesome.
do is download
It
the
took time,
free
but
Radio
Yeah.
FX app from the App
Eventually
Store.
it reached the point where I
Then
could
when you
talk for a whole
install
hour.
it, just search for
awesome.
22, type the
That's
number
awesome,
22
yeah.
in the search box, and then hit the star to favorite it.
And
That
that's
way,
like, okay,
22
since I could
West
pull
Radio
off talking for the
will
whole
always be
hour,
at the
I
top
could
of your
just
feed
record
on the Radio
There you
FX
go.
app.
Post it all
It's Radio
online.
FX. It's free at the App Store. Do it today.
Hey everyone, this is Jess Bloom from sunny Summery, Sydney in Australia, and you're listening to 22 West Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and as always, if this is your very first time listening to this show, this is the Golden Spotlight, a show where it's pretty much a biography show. I showcase a different guest every week and get them to share their story to inspire others. Now, I'm back here with my guest now. Wow, like, it's really something because I featured comedians before, and usually what I've asked them is, did they get into comedy because they were dared, or how did it go about that all of a sudden they decided, I'm going to try this?
No, I mean, I think how I really got into comedy is that I was always kind of a bit of the class clown. And for me, you know, I started theater, took my first theater class, had to have been 6th grade. And first theater class, I realized that the stage was where I was allowed to be goofy and not get in trouble. And so that's just kind of how it sparked from there. I mean, I love having fun, and comedy, you know, if you're not having fun, the audience is absolutely not having fun. And so, yeah, I guess I just kind of started because it was fun, and just kind of jumped in from there. And with stand-up comedy, specifically, because I started stand-up comedy about 2 years ago, stand-up comedy, like I said, was the kind of thing that I did when I wasn't doing anything else. because I was like, I moved to LA and I was hungry and I hated sitting alone in my apartment playing video games and doing nothing. And I was like, oh, I'm in LA, the biggest city for entertainment in the world. Why am I sitting here in my apartment? And sure enough, I go on the internet and saw that there are up to 20 to 30 open mics every night, every day of the week in LA. And all you have to do is just go. You just go and do it. And so that's what I did, and I never would have guessed something that I just did for fun in my free time would have blown up into something I'm getting paid for. But that's awesome.
So, tell us about your very first open mic.
Oof. Technically, my very first open mic was at the Improv Comedy Club in Houston, Texas. I went there 3 days before I jumped on the plane to move out here. For a couple reasons, but I think the biggest reason was to say that my first open mic was in Texas, in my hometown. Just, if you're writing your own story, I could put that in the biography. And I had no idea what I was doing. I haven't taken any classes. Only thing that I did was I watched a ton of Netflix stand-up comedy, mainly Kevin Hart, Gabriel Iglesias, David Chappelle, those guys, because they're storytellers, and that's my style of comedy. And I just wrote a funny story. I didn't even know the concept of setup and punchline yet. And I just wrote this funny story. It was stupid, too. It was bad. It was so bad. I remember making some sexual joke about Santa Claus, and it bombed. It bombed really, well, not really bad, because I went up there and I announced to the entire club that this was my first open mic ever. And once you do that, everyone kind of gives you a freebie, and everyone's going to clap and laugh for you out of pity. So, yeah, and I did my thing, and I only had like 3 friends come, 3 of my best friends. They came to support me. And the other thing about this open mic was that they didn't even have me perform on like their real stage. They had 2 open mics going on at the same time. They had an open mic where I guess you had to either been invited or call months ahead of time to get on their main stage, but that's not an open mic if you do it that way. And then the second one was they literally rolled out like a little karaoke speaker in front of the bar, and didn't even have a stage. They like literally just pushed 2 bar stools away from the bar and handed you this like Barbie kind of karaoke mic and had people go up. And so it was a very weird experience. And even though that I did what I would consider bad today, I still wasn't the worst. And I think if you're first time going, if you're not the worst, that's a huge win. So yeah.
Cool. Now, I always like to think that you never know who could be listening, and chances are, you know, there's a student out there, somebody who's listening, and they're like, I could totally relate to this person, or they're doing exactly what I want to do. And what tips do you have for people that want to do, you know, acting or comedy to the point where they could get paid? How do you build your way? How do you get your name out there and stuff?
Well, yeah, the first thing that I would have to recommend is do not wait. You are in Los Angeles, the biggest and most well-known city for entertainment in the world. And like I said earlier, in Los Angeles, you can actually go to a website called the Comedy Bureau. It's a Tumblr page, but the Comedy Bureau on the site has a list of every open mic in the city of Los Angeles. It has their address, their time, how much the cover is, and like I said, there's up to 20 to 30 a night. And, you know, if you really get into it, you can do 4 or 5 open mics in a night. When I very first started, I was hitting 20 open mics a weekend. And, I mean, that's how I got so good and so fast. And I'm going to start hitting the open mics again really soon. I've gotten busy with other jobs and I kind of want to go back to the roots. But going to open mics, don't just go to practice your material or your stage presence. I mean, yes, do all those things, but make friends. Go out of your way to meet the other comics, to shake their hands, get their story and their experience. I mean, in my own personal experience, if you go up to a comedian that's been doing it for 15, 20 years, and you say, hey, I've only been doing this for a few months, do you have any advice? I mean, they'll give you advice and then some. I mean, I'm not kidding. Tell an actor to talk about themselves, they won't shut up. Thus, me on this biography show right now, just going on and on and on. So, and I mean, especially in the comedy world, and I'm very glad to say this, that the time of working with that kind of actor that's very, hot-headed or very too like, oh, I'm better than everybody else and where's my trailer and all that. That age in the entertainment industry is dying, if not already dead. Because the competition is so high in the entertainment industry, people want to work with friends. They want to work with the kind of person that they can go to a bar and have a drink with after. And so it's not just about how good you are as a performer, but how good you are as a person. And so that's my biggest advice, is to not wait, to get up and go. If you're listening, person that relates to me, wants to do comedy, when the show ends, go right now to the Comedy Bureau, find an open mic, write something down. It can be 2-3 minutes, and just go and go meet people, go make friends, and do those things and keep at it and keep doing those things. You can only go up.
And what about for acting?
For acting, that is a little bit of a different scenario. I mean, everything I said about wanting to work with friends and good people and someone that they could vibe with, all of that definitely still implies, if not more so, because of auditions. In the audition room, that is your chance to show them that, you're just a friendly guy that loves to act, loves to do what he wants to do, but at the same time is a professional and is good at what he does. And the other thing with acting is that, again, like I said, with there being so much competition, you can't take not being cast personally. Not being cast does not by any means anymore mean that you are not good or that you suck. Not being cast could literally be the reason of like, oh, you have blue eyes and I wanted somebody with brown eyes. You can't control that. All you can do is go do you to the best of your ability and just hope that you're at the right place at the right time at the right audition. But you can only be in that situation if you put yourself in a spot to be in that situation. So go out to auditions as much as you can, because the more times you put yourself out there, the higher chance you have to finally hitting something.
And so how have you been also promoting your name and stuff to, get more promotion and stuff like that and get noticed?
Mm-hmm. That's actually something that I'm still trying to figure out. Because again, like I said, the competition is so high and everybody's doing it. And so it's the constant game of trying to figure out what makes you unique. Why, in a sense of you are a product and you have to sell yourself. And you have to be like, what makes you different from everybody else? Why should I spend the 30 minutes that I have at my lunch break to watch your YouTube video as opposed to anything else available to me in the whole world. And from what I've been kind of noticed is to keep doing your thing, and you will find your fan base by your fan base trying to find you. To keep doing live shows. I make business cards, and at comedy shows I hand them out. I constantly tell people to look me up on Instagram. And any time that I'm in a professional play or meet anybody in a networking setting, and that's one of the first things you do is you swap Instagram information, and you go and you like some of their pictures and they like some of yours, and trying to build that number game. But now what I'm starting to try to do now, because of the improv contest that me and my improv partner just went through, we have a show being produced ourselves. And so that's another big thing about, acting and comedy in general, is that you don't have to wait to be put in somebody else's thing when you can make your own. Yeah.
Another question I asked my guest, and this one's the big one. This one's the one that for some reason they're like, oh wow, that's quite a doozy. Let's see.
What, my sex life or something?
No. It's where do you see yourself after retirement, and what do you want your legacy to be?
Retirement. All right. Well, basically, I guess the best way to put it is like this. The comedic actor that I look up to, I have two big ones, and that's Robin Williams and Chris Farley. Love Chris Farley to death. I know he's dead. That I didn't mean to say that, but I want my legacy to be like them in the sense of, when you say the name Chris Farley or Robin Williams, the first thing that you think about is not how they died, but rather how they lived. When you think of those names, you think of Van Down by the River, or you think Genie from Aladdin, or Dead Poets Society, or Tommy Boy, little coat, fat guy in a little coat. And when you say their names, or when you think their names, you smile and you laugh. That's the legacy that I want to leave behind, is that when I'm gone and someone says my name, that they're not filled with sadness that I'm gone, but rather joy because I was there.
And of course, plugging time. How can people reach you?
Well, you can look me up on Instagram. My Instagram is my name, Shocker. That's JACECEYANES. I also have a website, which is also my name, JACECEYANES.com. And you can look me up on Facebook. And guess what that is? My name, Jace Cayanes. JACECEYANES. I also have a lot of shows coming up. For instance, I'm in the U.S. Comedy Contest over at Sal's Comedy Hole on October 21st. Like I said, follow me on Instagram to get updates on my improv show that I'm producing called Jolly Playtime with myself and my improv partner, Molly. Yeah, and again, a lot of those stand-up shows and improv shows coming up. Follow me on Instagram to follow me. There you go.
Cool. Now, I know that there's these websites where people maintain everything they've ever been in, is it IMDb? That type of stuff.
IMDb.
What is all that stuff, and what do you I noticed you had a digital resume and stuff like that too.
Yeah. And so on my website, I like to put everything that I've been in just to keep as a master record, not only for myself but for other people. Just be like, oh, it's been 5 years, but you've been in Um, you've been in All My Sons or, a classic play. But IMDb, how that works to my knowledge is that that's not something that you yourself as an actor necessarily sets up. You do create an account, but it's up to the director or the producer or the assistant director or whoever's in charge of that to actually go and add you to the projects that you're in. And you have to be, and your IMDb credits are only eligible with projects that are eligible through IMDb. I know student films can be eligible. You just have to submit the project and get the approval through them. But I also know like any films that have gone through film festivals or especially like any SAG jobs or anything like that, those are automatic, gets your credits, and you want to get in as many projects as you can with those to build up your IMDb page. Because if you Google my name, Jace Cayanes, Jaceceyyanes, IMDb is one of the very first things that comes up when your name is Googled. And so if you Google my name, the first link that you have up there right now is, I believe, that says IMDb, Jace Cayanes is an American actor known for this. Yeah. And so there's not too much that you can do with it other than create an account to put your own picture up on there. But to actually get the credits and to build that page, you just have to be in the projects that are eligible.
And of course, there's technical stuff that people mention, like unions and non-unions. How do you deal with that stuff?
It's something I'm still trying to figure out myself, and another reason why I'm going to school for it, because they're starting to slowly teach us through that. And this is, it's really a debate, and it's different and it's totally different of who you ask, because the thing with SAG, union, and non-union is that it's kind of like pick your poison. If you're union, you are protected by a lot of things. You're protected with pay, how many hours you work, health care, and a lot of those other things. However, if you are union, you cannot do a non-union project. And non-union projects, a lot of them are student films or even like indie films or just things that are not quite that professional level. And, but those are the things that you want to do first to build your resume, to build your acting reel, to build your network and things like that. Because I've heard stories of people that were like background actors in a Quentin Tarantino movie and became SAG eligible and became union just off that one job, and then that's all they did because they weren't allowed to do all these other lower scale things to not only make them better but to get their face out there more. But you have to be careful with some non-union works, because otherwise you might end up on a set that has you working for 18 hours straight with no food or lunch or anything like that, and then it's just miserable. So yeah, it's really pick your poison. Basically, what I've been told and what I've gotten from it is you want to be union and you want to be SAG, but at just the right time. If that makes sense.
Well, time goes by so fast. We're
Yeah,
literally down to our last minute. But do you have any closing statements for our listeners?
Yeah. Again, just if for those of you listening, if anything that you take away from me here is to do what you want to do what makes you happy, because life is. It's cliche, But life is too short to not do what you want to do and to be happy. And just have fun along the way. It's a short ride, but that doesn't mean that you have to make it a fast ride. Oh yeah, that's me. I'm Jace. Again, look me up on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. Thank you so much, Rob, for having me on the show. It's been a blast.